only a political standard.
Yeah.
Essentially, it is money management by the BSP.
Well,
and this is a long, drawn-out discussion.
Well, in fact,
hate
the entire global monetary system is not based on gold anymore.
No, it's based on predominantly the US dollar.
It's based on politics.
Yes.
Okay, we'll go back to that. And Attorney Alan is very eager to add his piece here, but we have to take our break. So we'll be back after these reminders.
Yeah, that's very important point.
Walang tigil ang aming discussion during the break. Alan, you were in a hurry to add something to the discussion.
To address the correction of Hiro, that is true because legally there is no more gold equivalent of our currency. But to be able to be helpful to our audience, to our countrymen, we must understand that way back in 1963 when 2 pesos equaled $1, the reason for that was this. $1 had the equivalent of 14 grains of pure gold. 14 grains. And 1 peso had the equivalent of 7 grains of gold. Therefore, 2 pesos is to $1. To make it simple, even accepting the correction of Hiro that it was done away with, understand that that was the status in the 60s. But if you will see, that is the reason why they had to change it so that they can justify multiplying the 2 pesos to 44 all these years for the same dollar. But the principle remains the same, that we appear to have been swindled of the value of our money. And our leaders or those who manage our central bank, our currency, were part of the conspirators against the best interests of the Filipino people.
Well, I tried to illustrate that when we were off the air. Na if a buko before was $1 or 2 pesos, and you could buy, or you sold your coconut for $1 or 2 pesos, now $1 will get 24 coconuts. They have 24 times 2, dati, But now you can get 24 coconuts. 22 coconuts for $1. Dahil 44 ang exchange rate.
Just to show in very, very simplistic terms. In fact, it might be called oversimplistic. But it gives the idea of how our economy went down, regardless of kung walang korap, walang mahirap. Hindi, bababa talaga kasi those who control our money are also controlling our economy.
Well, so that brings us to the point I think the first half showed. You cannot talk about an authentic constitution. You cannot talk about sovereignty. You cannot talk about a government and a republic actually implementing the high and lofty ideals of a constitution if you do not discuss the issue of money, currency, gold, and so on. And which brings me back to Mr. Vaswani. The justification for calling for these legislators, Ebardone, Enrile, Escudero, and the others for pushing for a new charter change is that we have no money in the Philippines. That's why we have to open up this discussion on removing the old protection for Filipino corporations from allowing only 40% to foreign investors to maybe unlimited shares in Filipino companies, and also the ownership of land, which is probably one of the last remaining privileges of Filipino citizenship and last entitlement. But they want to do away with that so that foreign money can come in to buy land, and therefore there will be money coming in. But in our previous episode, you showed that we are not lacking of capital. Maybe we should review that and tell the public, and at the same time relate that to our discussion of the Constitution and the principles of the Constitution today.
Okay. Wow.
It's quite a mouthful.
Like you said, quite a mouthful. But let me try to simplify things. First of all, money is not wealth. Money is a means or a tool to grow wealth. Okay? Let's start from that. That's a fact, not an opinion. Money is just a medium. Some people call it the purchasing media. It has different applications. It's also a unit of account, a unit of measurement. Magkano yan? Per kilo. Yan. Storage of value, savings. Okay? That's the application. But money is not a commodity. It never was. It is only an idea.
It is a social commodity or a social
it's part
agreement.
of our social convention. Okay?
Convention,
It is
yes.
basically a representative idea of the shared expectations of value creation. Value creation basically is done through the creative ability of human labor to create wealth. And what do I mean? Money is not capital.
But I'll just come in at this point. The problem in the Philippines is that they prevent the people from creating wealth. For example, the import policy on rice and cutting off support for rice production. That is intervening in behalf of other producers and then suppressing our creative capabilities. Isn't that correct?
However, again, you're going to a specific sector while you're asking, we're discussing an overview.
Yeah.
It's very difficult to take that overview and apply it immediately.
But I'm trying to apply it.
You have to understand, okay, that the economy is a complex sort of mechanism, all right? The system of income accounting, what you call GDP, basically, was developed in the 30s.
Yeah.
By the government,
But
Department
I
of
don't want
Commerce.
to go
Let me
too
finish.
far. Yeah, okay.
And before you get into that, okay, you have to talk about the productive capacity, the availability of technology, etc., availability of credit, which is money. That's a small factor.
Precisely.
And all of these factors drawn together basically create that wealth. Now, all of this is part of that mechanism called the economy. There are the productive sectors and the non-productive sectors. We are involved mainly in non-productive economic enterprise. That's why we cannot create wealth in this country. And that is basically because we are bound by foreign scriptures.
That we have to relate it to the premise that we discussed earlier. Is it because our banking system really is controlled by private interests that have no interest in promoting domestic productivity?
Because those private interests are dominated and controlled by foreign interests.
Precisely. Yeah.
I agree.
Okay? There was an article yesterday in the Star, the stock market guy, talking about stock markets and all, and he made a very nice statement. He mentioned that we, in the name of their mutual fund or their company, never fight the Fed. This is a Filipino financial management group and comes out with a statement, don't ever fight the Fed.
The U.S. Federal Reserve.
Correct.
That's what they mean.
Because they're in control of our monetary policy. They are actually the captain of this big ship behind the wheel, while we are that little banca tied to this big wheel, and the BSP is just paddling
And again,
and being pulled.
I will go back to what you have cited before in our discussion here, that these arguments of the legislators that we do not have the capital is a lot of BS, a lot of bullshit, because you showed that the special deposit account in the Philippines, held by the Bangko Sentral in conjunction with the bankers here, holds 1.22 trillion
Correct.
pesos in idle funds, and yet this cannot be used for development, and they want to borrow some more every year, and also have the public-private partnership projects, which will bring in, again, foreigners to partake of the wealth of this nation.
Yesterday, the chief executive officer of San Miguel, there was an article in the Inquirer, and he said this, you don't need guarantees for these projects. San Miguel can bid on all these 30 projects.
Precisely, yeah.
This is one corporation.
So we do have the capital,
Of course,
internal
it's here.
capital. Let me add to that. Our volunteer researchers also have come up with the discovery that our earnings from Malampaya, the 10% share of almost 100 billion pesos, are also in the SDA, the Special Deposit Account. This is all idle money. But it brings us back to the question of the Constitution guarantees work for everyone, productive work for everyone, and so on, full employment. But because we don't control our policy, we are not sovereign, the constitutional provision of taking care of our people is meaningless. So why are we going to discuss